What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Tinter Battles podcast episode featuring your boy, the Glass and Film Tank, Tinter beating Hellraising, trailblazing the Tintertaining, Tinterfying Texas Squeegee. All right, we got our first comment here. Rapster Rich is off of YouTube saying, let's get into it. And that's exactly why we're going to get into it, because this podcast, we have exciting new launches from a very, very important and pioneering individual that's going to be coming up here shortly. The official full episode is going to be starting here momentarily. But before we do that, we're going to let some people here filtering on the comment section. So if you're watching this, go ahead and drop me a comment. Let me know where you're coming from and where you're watching from for this episode. Now, we've got a couple of important things coming up here. We have some exciting events coming up, especially towards the end of May. We're talking about none other than the Film Fest competition event that we have coming up here, but put on by the guys of the We Are Film crew, including Cash Kadoosh. Hey, so we got somebody, Paul, I believe it's Chickaretti, Petoskey, Michigan. Yeah, exactly. There you go. We got some people here coming in. If you're watching from Facebook, let me know down in the comment section. We're gonna let the crowd start to filter in before we go kick it off live with this exciting new launch. Now, Harry Rahman, for those who don't know who he is, he's one of the driving pioneers of ceramic window film. He started his career in the Hooper Optic Audubon family. Then he's transitioned over to Veloce. Then it's sold to XPEL. He served as a vision director for the architectural film sales. And now he's got an exciting new launch and a new journey he's going to be starting here that we're going to get into the details of it. Now, the podcast that I had with him was very insightful, to say the least. A lot of wisdom was shared. Harry's a person that I've been knowing for some time. You know, we've become really good friends throughout the years, and he's helped me and guided me a lot in business as well. So, we got Johnny from the UK. Can't wait to hear everything Harry has to say. Hey, thank you, Johnny, for joining in on the live. We're going to start it here momentarily. Again, we have the Film Fest event coming up at the end of May, which I will be there. I'll be doing some MC and mic work, and I will also be doing some competing there with my partner, Tinter Master Pete Espinoza. CK YouTube there is coming in from live, saying he's from Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining us here on this special live with Harry Rahman's podcast. We're going to stream the podcast here momentarily. Now, before we get started, we have some exciting announcements. So Tinter Battles, the international conference and competition, is coming up in August the 15th and the 16th. There's a huge anticipation coming up for it because finally we have a major event coming to California. And California is a major hotspot in our industry, as it has a very dense population of a bunch of tinting and PPF professionals in the nation. And now that somebody's finally having a show in their backyard, it has been incredibly exciting, and the numbers are showing for it. This is going to be probably our biggest show that we've ever put on there by far, based on the early numbers that so far we have gotten. You know, we sold out on the original automotive division slots early on pretty quickly, that we had to expand the automotive division. And it seems like we have like less than, I believe last I checked, it's less than 5 slots remaining for the automotive. So it may go through another expansion as well. And speaking of expansions, the Tint and PPF hands-on training seminar has been also expanded to be 2 full-day events rather than half-day events as we had in our Houston show. So that's going to be pretty exciting, because a lot of people really expressed that really meant a lot to them. We bring people from all over the nation and sometimes all over the world, and so where they come from, a lot of the networking in that area is really non-existent. People like to gatekeep a lot of information that they don't like to share. When it comes to the culture that we've cultivated at the Tinter Battles events, it is very open and collaborative and networking. So that's pretty exciting. Also, something that we haven't quite announced, but I'm announcing it here first. The business conference is going to be added to our lineup. The last time we had a business conference was in Amelia Island 2023. This time, since we have a much bigger space, we have the stage. We're going to have a massive presence. So we're having a business conference called the Battles of Business, featuring speakers, but it's put on by the production team of Tintertainment. So you can bet your bottom tri-edge it's not just another conference. Now, that being said, the official hotel has also been released. We are partnering with the Hilton Hotels. It's located nearby the event venue. To find it, you just go to our website, tintertainment.com. Look on the menu. You'll find the link to the hotel. Book it, and you'll get your access codes and your discounts through there. So that being said, We got a couple of viewers in here, 5 minutes into the hour. Hey, this is going to be straight into it. So if your guys are watching, ready to hear Harry Ramon's podcast with your boy, the Texas Squeegee, let me know in the comment section that you guys are ready. We get started on here. This is going to be a pretty cool episode that we shot here. He's got some very exciting announcements. So those that are watching on behalf of Harry, thank you for being on the podcast. Other than that, man, I think that's about it. As I said, it's short and sweet, to the point. I don't want to drag this on too much. It's been some time since I've done a podcast like this. So for those that are dropping some comments, it's good to see you guys back. And exactly, face window tinting, Jesse says that must be Hilton of Glendale. That's exactly right. You got it right on there, man. Bella, California. Clayton, sell it all somewhere else, down in the Facebook, commenting there as well. CK YouTube, ready to go, looking for from the knowledge drop. And Harry is a knowledge dropper, and there's so much knowledge that was dropped in on this one. Some statements that are a little bit out there, a little bit controversial, but hey, if you agree, disagree, let us know in the comment sections. We want to know what people are thinking. We want to know what you've got to say. So that being said, DJ, cut that music off. There we go. Director Squeegee there, directing the traffic and airflow. So that being said, all right, everybody, we're going to be rolling out the podcast. This is your boy, the Texas Squeegee, signing off, rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am sitting here with Harry Rahman. Now, Harry is an entrepreneur and businessman, born out of Pakistan, raised in Africa, and then moved to the United States at the age of 18. Harry holds a degree in marketing from the University of Houston. Now, he's been a central key figure to many multiple brands in the window film industry. Now, with that being said, we're going to get this conversation started because he's got an exciting new company coming out called Pro Layers. But before we get there, let's start the podcast.
The move you make with the best decision you can is better than the one you don't.
Knowing that, so if you could stab your wife, you're fucking gonna put a grenade in my ass. Make the move, take the risk, and if it works, if it doesn't work out.
Harry is starting up his new company called Pro Layers. Now, before we get to that, we're going to get to his background and experience to understand more about who Harry is and what is going to give him the advantage with this new startup company that is not just another film company. So, Harry, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Carlos. I'm excited.
So this is a pretty exciting news. You have a new company that's on the come up. It's not just another film company. But I want to go back and I want to learn a little bit more about your background and your history throughout the different, the different things you've navigated throughout, in your history as a business person. I want to start back from when you started off, and you obviously were born out of Pakistan, and you grew up in Africa.
In Africa, in Zambia. Been to a bunch of countries, but my dad worked for a bank in Zambia, so we moved around a little bit. So yeah, it was great times.
So you obviously grew up outside of the culture of the U.S. You came here. You've had a lot of success in business. What were some of the things that maybe some of the advantages that you feel like it gave you growing in a different culture outside of the U.S. that made you successful in business here?
Carlos, I think culturally, I'm not sure exactly, but I can tell you that going from Zambia. From Pakistan to Zambia, obviously I was very young, I was about 5 years old, was a change. So one of the things that I'm used to is change. And then moving around within Africa was a change as well. And then coming to the US was another change. So it makes you a lot more adaptable when you have been around so many different cultures and so many different places. And it made me appreciate, when I moved to the United States at the age of 18, it really made me appreciate what this country has to offer, And I remember, there are things we take for granted in the United States that in other countries people would love to have. So I remember I was about 9 years old, and land in Africa is very inexpensive. So we have these big walls and big houses. So somebody jumped in. There were two robbers that jumped in. And we called 911. We realized that there was somebody there. We called 911, their 911, and this was at 4 a.m. And the police said, hey guys, we don't have transportation, but can we come in the morning? And we're like, guys.
In the middle of an emergency.
In the middle of an emergency. So there are a lot of things we take to, so when I came to the US, so grateful to be in the greatest country in the world, where we don't take these things, I mean, we take these things for granted, but we're so fortunate to have all of these things that we have in this country. So it was, my dad passed away in Africa, and that's why we had to move. And that taught me a lot as well, because, you have at the age of 13, you have somebody that, you look up to, who financially provides for you. And we were pretty well off to do at that point. And then the bank that all his money was in went under 2 years later. So we first lost my dad, and then we lost all his savings. But, God puts angels, in your life. And one of the angels was my uncle, who's been just, he's the one that helped bring us to the United States and so forth as well. So very fortunate, and some great people that I've come across.
So you mentioned that there are things that we take for granted here that in other countries you don't have, right? Do you feel like that kind of background allowed you to maybe see opportunity where opportunity was not so easily seen by others, or maybe were you extracting more value out of an opportunity?
I think situations put you in that place as well, right? Because when I moved here, I was working for my uncle. He had gas stations, and I was working at $4.25 an hour, and he's an amazing man. He gave me the opportunity, and he brought us here. He supported us. One of my mentors, one of my 3 mentors that I've come across, and he is by far the greatest one. So he, when I came here, it was, sink or swim, right? Even though he was kind enough, I had to kind of build. I didn't have an inheritance. I didn't have, it takes people 4 years to finish a 4-year degree. It took me 7 years.
How come?
Just working, right? You would go work in the gas stations. I was managing some of them, and then you would drop. Not that I was the smartest student in the world anyway. So it took me 7 years to complete what is a 4-year degree in marketing. Yeah.
Like during those times when you were working while going to a
Yes.
degree, were you taking any loans to get to
No,
the
luckily
degree?
I was working enough to, I was putting in a ton of hours, 60, 70 hours, and I would take evening classes.
Wow.
One of the great things about evening classes is that the professors in those schools are very, they adapt to people that work a lot. So I was very fortunate.
Do you, like in that experience, what do you feel like, what was maybe some of the things that you carry to this moment from those experiences? Because obviously you were going to school and you were working, going to school is a full-time job as it is, and then you were working, which is another full-time job, and you're paying your way through it. Did they feel like it gave you a kind of grit or a work ethic, or is it something you always had? Like, tell me a little bit about some of the advantages that you felt like looking back now that gave you.
I think the key thing was that, you have to, it's painful, and you have to go through the grind, because, I didn't really like school. I didn't like my core courses, my histories and my geographies, and I hated them, right? But when I got to my finals courses, my senior courses and junior courses, those were more about marketing. So I was able to connect, and they're easy. You can relate to them. So it was a lot easier. But the one thing that it taught me was you gotta stay in it for the grind. You gotta believe in yourself. And 7 years is a long time. My wife is a dentist, and in 8 years, she was done with 2 degrees, right? An undergraduate 4 years and 4 years of dental school. And here I was, in 7 years trying to complete one, but she didn't work through her college. So the grind is the thing that it reminds me, and something that, as I've been through this career in the window film industry for the last 26 years, just sticking to the grind. So, I mean, my thing is to everybody that's watching this, if you believe in what you're doing, then just don't look for that easy out, and don't look for that magic wand, and don't look for that magic pill. Just stick to the grind.
So when you go from there, you had your degree in marketing from the University of Houston. When did you get started with the actual window film industry? What was your way into that?
So my way was that my cousin was starting a company. My uncle's son was starting a company, and he was given this opportunity by a gentleman by the name of Marty Watts, who's another great guy that I met, who had a brand called V Cool. right? So Be Cool was coming out with another brand called Huper Optics, so they gave him the opportunity. And then what he did was, I remember my first job at Huper Optic, I was making about $24,000 a year, right? And plus commission. But I believed in it and I worked my ass off to get to that point. But that's how I got into the industry.
And at the time, you mentioned in a previous conversation that we've had, man, like ceramic window films. You hear ceramic all over the place now, ceramic brakes, ceramic everything. But back in those early days, there was a ceramic window film. How did that whole story come about?
It was a beautiful thing because I was the second person in North and South America, right? With my cousin and I, when he started this company, I was in charge of sales and so forth as well. So, I remember going and talking to dealers and saying, we have ceramic window films. Yeah. And people saying, what do you mean ceramic? Is it like my tile or like my toilet? What is it?
Yeah.
Right? So it was very, but there was an aspect of it that made it ceramic, right? And how we differentiate it from metals. We hit that very hard, and there were a lot of people, a lot of the most successful dealers today, right, were our dealers because they connected the dots, right? They saw how we changed the industry and brought about technologies that were different, that were better in many ways. So that's how it was.
So for the people that may not know what we're referring to as like ceramic window films, how would you, as one of the instrumental figures who made it popular, how would you define that to people?
What differentiates a ceramic from a metallic film is primarily that the structure, the electron structure is different. What that means is that ceramic films do not corrode. Now, since the introduction of ceramics 26 years ago, there are many different types of ceramics because now it's gotten to the point where there are companies today making metallized films that are dual reflective films and saying these are ceramic dual reflective films. Now, that's kind of like saying, Carlos, I've got this fat-free burger that only has 2% fat in it. Right? So it's either fat-free or it's not fat-free, right? So you've got a lot of things have changed. So now what's happened is anybody that puts even a little bit of ceramic now says it's ceramic window films. But the goal of ceramic window films was at a time when they were metallized films that could potentially corrode in the architectural and automotive markets. Because I ran both sides, I ran the architectural and the automotive for about 18 years. And the benefit of this was it wouldn't corrode. And the other thing was it did not have any dyes in it, which meant that it would not discolor.
Okay.
So discoloration comes from pigments and dyes. And so these products, so that's what ceramics were. And since then, there have been many different types of ceramics that have been introduced, some really good technologies after that as well.
So at the time, I know this was during Huper Optics, so is it the Dre film?
No, the Dre is not a ceramic film, right? That's a metallized film. So these were there were certain films that were called ceramic. So those were, the Dre is a highly metallized films with multiple layers of metals that can potentially corrode in saltwater environments. Yeah.
So you had your experience there with Huper Optic, and then eventually you came, like, so I knew you when you were with Veloce. That's where I got my introduction, and I started hearing about you a little bit. So what was the inception of Veloce? Like, how did that start? Why the name Veloce? What did it mean to you at that time in your career?
So, Huper Optic was a good technology 26 years ago, right? It was ahead of its times, and it was a good technology. But what happened was it never reinvented. So in 2018, when I decided to leave, I realized that we were still selling the black and white television 18 years later, right? There was really no innovation. There was nothing that was coming from it. So that's why I named when I left. Also, things had changed, right? Initially, our goal was to have one brand and to focus in on having the key dealers in every market. And then it became, hey, let's introduce another brand and let's sell it to everybody else. And then let's introduce another brand and let's introduce it to everybody else. So what that became was there were lots of conflicts of interest. So even at our dealer conferences, like, Carlos, just in the last 3-4 months, this is dealer conference season, right? So I want each and every one of you that have been to a dealer conference over the last 3 to 4 or 5 months, I want you to think about this. You're sitting around your competitors, right? Some of them are carrying, what companies have done is they've created multiple brands. So there's brand A within their company, and then there's brand B, and then there's brand C. So how comfortable are you sharing your knowledge at the dealer conference? You're not. You're not comfortable because your competitors are sitting right there, right? So what happens is there's a huge conflict of interest. The other thing that you think that you have a great relationship with potentially your sales rep, that is the same sales rep that is selling to all of your competitors. That is the same sales rep, right? If you look at the brands that this company offers, that is selling to a brand that is sold to everybody, that is selling to an automotive brand, an architectural brand, that is selling. So that is the same person. So how are you to have that relationship that, a dealer may think, hey, look, I've got this, right? And what's happened is, it's not a good or bad thing, right? It's not, that maybe that's how it does, but I started Veloce because I didn't want that. I didn't want to have 3 different brands, right? I wanted one brand that could focus in on developing our dealers. I didn't want there to be, one of the biggest issues in our industry is conflicts of interest.
Give me some examples of that.
So look, when I started Veloce, and some of the things that I was not going to do was create these conflicts. Number one was we were not going to bypass our dealer. We were dealer focused, right? So we were not going to do anything that would jeopardize the relationship with our dealer, right? So what that meant was that if we have a dealer in a certain area, now, key thing about this is there has to be some mutual commitment, right? Right. We weren't going to bully our dealers and say, hey, you have to buy this from us, right? We weren't going to tell them that we're going to create 5 different brands or 3 different brands and we're going to sell to your competitors and so forth. So I'll save some of this to when we discuss more about what ProLayers is about and so forth. But that was kind of, the thought process is Veloce means fast. And I got this because of my love of cars, right? In Italian, it means fast. And then the name of the company was Veloce Innovation, which is fast innovation. So I wanted to bring new technologies to market much faster, especially with my history in 18 years. We had great products at one point, and then over time, we didn't reinvent. So I wanted to so that's what Veloce was about.
I want to ask a question. You mentioned about you see the tendency with manufacturers creating like sub brands so they could start to. Is this a strategy that they do to try to capture more of the market, or what's the thinking process behind that?
Look, Carlos, I think one of the most important things I'm going to say today is for the last 25 years, there are a few things that have not changed. Even though the industry's come a long way, there are a few things that have not changed. Number one is dealers don't trust suppliers. Number two is suppliers don't trust dealers. And number three is dealers don't trust dealers. That has not changed. And that is something that I have solutions for.
All right, and we'll get to that. So we're Veloce Innovations. You started this company at the time. You had to have optimism going into it. Is that right? Optimism.
Yeah, I realize. Look, there are companies today, and I give a lot of credit, and I'll touch on this after Veloce as well, that have created good brand names. But then there are what is called dealer brands. And I realized that as good a brand as we had before I started Veloce, it was just a dealer brand. Nobody was calling in and saying, hey, if you don't have this brand, I'm not going to buy from you. And I realized that I wanted to create a dealer brand, right? First, and then create a consumer brand. So what happened was I had a lot of optimism because I know what, at the end of the day, we don't sell products. We sell relationships and we sell trust. And I know that for 18 years, even if people didn't do business with Harry Rahman, my brand was Harry Rahman and it wasn't another brand. And even at Veloce, my brand was Harry Rahman. Even when I left Veloce, my brand was Harry.
I listen to this podcast a lot called The Hard Knocks, the School of Hard Knocks. It's a very popular YouTube channel that interviews the top business people, like and entrepreneurs around the world. And there was one particular podcast that I recently was listening to, and he talked about how, especially in the world of today, companies are very personality driven because everybody's got a phone now and everybody has social media accounts. So a lot of times people don't look for a company to work for, they look for a person to work for. And you mentioning that is very interesting because I'm seeing the parallels in what you're saying to like what it's a common theme with a lot of high performing individuals as well. So,
Hold that thought. I would love to get that clip to share with my wife because you just described me as a successful person. I'm, 20 years of marriage, and I'm still trying to, get her to say that.
Well, 20 years is success. So 20 years, especially, I feel like in the world of today, to have a marriage, going on 20 years is very successful too.
Look, I have a great marriage. You can ask her about hers with mine, with me, but I love our relationship my relationship with him.
One of the things I've always appreciated about you is you've always been like very candid about things, and you have a very comedic way of explaining things and being relatable. And it's one of the things I think like really make you stand out because you're very well respected in the community, but you're a person that people can just come up to and have a conversation, and you're an open book with that. But in Veloce, so when you started, Veloce Innovations, you had the company and you were going with it for it was doing pretty well, obviously.
Yes.
Who was the one that made that first call to purchase it? Like, was it XPEL calling you? Was it you calling XPEL? How did that whole deal come about?
So it's an interesting thought. Look, what happened was that the company was around for a year and a half. Veloce was actually in existence for a year and a half. And
that's a short amount of time.
That's a very short amount of time, right? And it took me about 6 months to start it up. Okay. So give or take 2 years. So what happened was there was a certain company that reached out to me that said, "Hey, look, we love what you're doing, and we would love to acquire your business." I wasn't in sale mode. In a year and a half, I was having fun. I was having the time of my life. The part that I was missing out on was my family, right? And at the time, my kids were 10 and 12.
Ooh,
It was a very crucial time. Yeah. So I remember my wife going to a dinner because I would work late. I was doing all sorts of stuff, and remember my wife going to a dinner, and somebody said, "We never see your husband any longer," and she's like, "Well, he's working." And one of them said, "Is he having an affair or something?" Right? Because I was never there.
That's business, though, huh?
No, understood.
Yeah.
But it was like I was never there.
Yeah.
And then it hit me that though I was having a lot of fun, I was missing out on a very crucial age, a time with, not as much with my wife because I had built a good framework, but with my kids at 10 and 12. So when the opportunity came along, I said, well, if there's a company out there, maybe I should test the market to see others, because this company was a good company, but I didn't believe in where they were headed.
What was that like? So I want to ask about that. Many times, whenever people are looking to sell or to be acquired, you have multiple offers on the table. Some of them don't work. What was your North Star? What was your compass? Like you mentioned earlier, like we talked about partnerships, previous to the podcast. And you mentioned like they have to align in values. Yeah. What were some of the reasons why you maybe didn't take certain offers with Veloce?
Look, there are three things when you look for. You asked me earlier before the podcast started. You said, Harry, what do you look for? What are the three things you look for? Right? You said you didn't ask me three.
In a partnership.
In a partnership. You said, hey, what are the things you look for?
Yeah.
So for me, it's three things. Number one is willingness. Is somebody willing to go the distance with you? Willingness. Does somebody want to? right? You don't want to force somebody to become a partner of yours, whether it's personally or professionally. The second one is ability, right? Let's give you an idea. I have the willingness to go run 4 miles, 5 miles. I don't have the ability to run that at 5 miles a minute. But I have the willingness to run it, but I don't have the ability, not 5. Now, can I do it at 7.5 or possibly 7 if I train hard? Maybe, right? So there's willingness. Does somebody want to do it? Does somebody want to grow their business to that level? Do they have the ability? Because sometimes you have willingness, I want to do it, but you don't have the ability. And sometimes you have the ability, somebody says, I can do it, but they don't want to do it. And the third thing is if they have both of those are values, right? 18 years, trust me, to go after leaving a job after 18 years of working for the same company, it's very difficult. Leaving a marriage is probably difficult too. Hopefully I'll never get to experience that, but it was very difficult. But the values had just gone different ways, right? We had initially, the goal was to maintain our set of dealers and focus on them and not just try to sell to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is what you were saying a little earlier. You said, what is the motivation? Why do companies do that, right?
Yeah.
I think that they're just trying to grab at every single thing they can. And they're like, okay, if I'm going to send to Carlos and I've got this premium automotive brand that I'm send Carlos, but I'm going to use some of those same films and put them in another brand that I own in a different box, and I'm going to sell to everybody around Carlos. But Carlos, when he complains, I'm just going to say, hey, Carlos, you're the only automotive dealer of our high-end brand, but I can sell to anybody else with my secondary brand. So what happens is I feel that companies get greedy. Now, there are some companies that have done it well. I mean, XPEL is one of them. I learned a lot of things from XPEL, and their CEO, Ryan Pape, very, very smart man. Another one of my mentors that I met there was Matt Moreau. This guy was my boss.
Yeah.
This guy was just a freaking amazing guy. In fact, I talked to him today. Because I've been reaching out to him, and he was so motivational, just a great human being, and I look at him as another mentor. So there are companies like XPEL, there are things that 3M has done very well. There are things that Lumar, the parent company, Eastman, primarily with the Lumar brand. I'm not a big fan of their other brands, but with Lumar, they've done a good job. So there are good companies out there. And there are others. I'm just talking about these three because there are things that XPEL does very well, right? And they've done a great job of creating consumer brand. There are things 3M does very well. And then, Lumar helped put the industry back in the 2000s where it's at. So loads of respect for these three brands.
So going back to the question of some of the offers that you turned down, was value driven? You didn't align in the values or the vision for it?
It wasn't that they were bad people, and it wasn't that my values were better. I just didn't think they were going places. When with XPEL, I saw the resources, right? Look, 5 years ago, you could not say XPEL and architectural films in the same sentence,
right?
Because people wouldn't take it. Today, I feel like I've done for them something really well, which is put them on the architectural map.
Yeah, XPEL is very, very, they've done an incredible job of marketing themselves in the automotive sector. Sure. And in the initial stages, whenever we started working with XPEL, selling the architectural was, you had to overcome a little bit in the beginning, but I think as time went on, with under your director and leadership role there, I think it's diversified what the XPEL brand has become, what we see it as today. So with XPEL, what was the deciding factor within you when you knew okay, this is the right move or the decision to make?
Two things. Number one was I realized my kids were 10 and 12, and I said, hey, 3 to 5 years, if I spend with them at a minimum, that puts my kids at 17 and 15, right? And that's a great time for me. Like today, my daughter's 17 and a half, my son's 15 and a half. She's going to college. She just got accepted into UT, into the health program. So she wants to become a doctor. Really excited about that because that's where she wanted to go. My son's 15 and a half and pretty sharp lazy a little bit, but very, very sharp. So I feel that now I've got the time. I've got a great relationship with my wife. At least that's what I'm saying. You can ask her for her views. So I feel this is a great time for me to go into, but the key thing I saw was that they were willing, they were giving me the rope to go create. And they gave me, and this is one thing, and look, XPEL's a good company. Is it a perfect company? No, right? And there are a lot of XPEL haters out there. And for those people, I would say, look, they're not a perfect company and they're not for everybody, but they're doing some things well. At XPEL, I learned some things that I should do. And there are also things I learned what not to do, right? So that I can improve upon that, right? But again, more power to them. And Ryan Pape is great leader. But what it's become over the years, I feel like it's become very corporate. And then you've got, some people that are very, very corporate there. Corporate as in not in the benefit of the company or potentially even the dealers, right?
I want to ask you, and this is not specific to XPEL. I've never worked for a corporate company, but I've worked with some corporate companies, and I've come to certain conclusions that I'm like, I don't think I would like that culture personally. Yeah. How would you define corporate in the way that you mentioned it now?
I think what happens is, corporate is when you take your eye off of the ball off of your customer and start thinking about what's better for me than what's better for the customer, right? When I put systems in place, my first thing becomes, okay, how do I benefit the dealer, right? Instead of, well, is it going to take my employees more time or less time or this or that? So, and it's not XPEL. XPEL's one of the better corporate companies, right? But any corporation, when you start acting too corporate, you are putting your needs ahead of the needs of the dealer. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not just that, hey, man, if it's going to cost me more than it's going to benefit me. There is a cost-benefit analysis as well. But I have to always say, look, the people that pay our bills are the dealers. And you have to have the dealer-centric thought process rather than a corporate thought process, which is, hey, we have to do what's just great for us, because that is what changes the culture. And that's why after 18 years, I left, because I saw that culture changing. I just didn't have the money or the guts to leave for the last 2-3 years. And then finally I got both of those, and that's when I left. The first time around.
Right.
This time around, it was different. My non-compete, I had a 3-year non-compete after XPEL bought my company. And then they came to me about 2 years later after the first 2 years, and they said, hey, we'd like to extend your non-compete, and we were willing to compensate you for it. So it ended up being 5 years, right? So my non-compete expired. So I thought, wait, this is a great time to go back into the marketplace. My kids are at a good age and so forth as well.
Well, during that journey of XPEL, what was like some of the moments that stood out to you? Like maybe some of the growth moments that you had within you. You mentioned earlier, like there were certain things that you learned that you should do. Well, talk a little bit about some of the moments that maybe you had. It was a career-defining moments or like epiphanies or realizations that you might have had.
I love what XPEL has been able to do. I don't necessarily agree with exactly how they've done it, but again, I shouldn't, because we're different people. And doesn't mean that my way is right or their way is right. But what I'm going to change is the conflicts of interest, right? We will have growth, but we won't have the conflicts of interest. So, but they've done a great job of scaling. And when I saw what they were able to do in terms of scaling, and then it starts at the top, right? If a company has great values, it starts from the top. And again, I can't say enough about Ryan Pape. And again, there are other good people there as well. And then my boss, Matt Moreau, what I learned from him, the defining moment was, this guy said to me, he bikes.
Yeah, he won one of the races recently.
And he said to me, and he was so cool, and I learned so much from him without even learning so much about business. I learned so much about just being a machine, right? I refer to him, everybody in my house knows, my kids know, okay, Dad, Matt Moreau would have done it this way, right? So, so the thing I learned from him was, man, don't be afraid. He said, Harry, you want to go hire that person? I wanted to hire somebody in Singapore. And the company said, well, we don't hire that position in Singapore. We want it here. And Matt's like, no, Harry wants that person from Singapore on his team. We're going to go hire that person in Singapore. If it doesn't work out, Harry, don't worry. A year later, you give him some room, and then we say, okay, we're big enough to make that mistake. If we make a mistake, guess what? You go hire another person. You try. So he gave me that courage to say, the move you make with the best decision you can is better than the one you don't make.
Can you say that again?
The move you make with knowing that that's the best decision at the time is better than the move that you don't make.
Wow.
Right? So he says, make the move, take the risk, and if it works, if it doesn't work out, we're going to learn from it and we're going to do it better next time. So things like that. And then one time he was like, hey, look, I'm going on a race. And I'm like, Matt, your knee is hurting. And he's like, Harry, I'm going to win that race. If that means that knee is hurting, I'll chop it off, drop it off, and I'll finish the race, and then I'll go figure out how to get another knee, right?
Wow.
So those are some of the things. So XPEL's done a great job of scaling, right? I mean, look at what they've done. They've done a great job of creating consumer awareness, right? Whereas all these other, not all, many of these other brands, they have what I call empty vessels make the most noise. So they're very loud on social media, right? So you've got, if you look at some of these guys, their businesses are very small. And then you look at what XPEL has done and what some of the 3M dealers, these are big dealers, right? I mean, they do, and they're not loud, they just do it quietly, and they do a great job. So hats off to these brands.
I'm seeing a pattern here, and like Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he talks about that he wants to have the most efficient company, and efficiency is speed, and the speed to attack problems, to find solutions. You mentioned that part of the inspiration for the name Veloce was Veloce Innovations, was speed, and I'm seeing this pattern right here as well, where you said say that one more time. The action is better to take the action than the inaction.
It's better to take the action based on the best decision at the time than not take an action.
Right. So I'm seeing that speed is one of the key components of a successful company.
Based on at the time, right?
Yeah.
So move, look at the scenario, and with the information you have, make the best decision and move. The problem is we don't move because we're like, we need more information. I use when somebody said to me, one of the Veloce dealers said to me, he said, Harry, actually, it wasn't a dealer. First was the employee. I have an employee that said to me, he said, hey, Harry, we can't go to market. We don't have this. When I was launching Veloce. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, I'm not, and I don't want to get into politics. I don't care if you like President Trump or if you hate him, or I don't care if you like Biden or hate him. Right? To me, politicians are politicians. They're all the same. Mark my words. So I just want to put that in the clear. So they are all out for one thing, themselves. So my thing is this, whoever the president is, if they said, Carlos, Harry, we are being invaded by whoever, China, Russia, whoever, all of the above. We need you to get your asses out there because we need you in the streets. We're being invaded. I'm not going to sit there and say, man, I don't have the right B-2 bombers. I'm going to get whatever I have, the guns, the this, the that, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to fight for the country that gave me the greatest opportunity in the world, right? I'm going to go out and bust my ass with whatever. If I have hammers, guess what I'm taking out? I'm going out with my hammers. So that's kind of how business is. So to all of you guys that are waiting on your next step, right, and you say, I don't have this, go out with what you have and go make the best decision and work as hard as you can with what you have instead of saying, I'm going to wait for this.
And that's the focus. That's the shifting of the focus into constructive things, not destructive things. And then some of the grit that we talked about earlier with you going to school and you did what you did. You did the best you did. You did the best job you could do with what you had.
Yes.
Right. And that was this is a pattern that I'm noticing within your career, even from the beginning, that, starting off with working at the gas stations and going to school. And it's like you you did what you had to do with what you had. And it's something that you see that that's a common trait of successful people. Like no matter where you're at in life, is you at the end of the day, it's like you can either choose to focus on the why you can't do something or why you can. There's a quote that I like to think about a lot, and it's like whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
I like it. That's well said. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You determine.
It's focus, man. Like focus, and sometimes the answer doesn't always pop up right then and there. But when your focus is in the right places, like your mind, sometimes, like my school teacher when I was in freshman, he always told me like whenever he's like, how do musicians get better over time? It's like, well, you practice, but whenever you spend time away from that task, your brain subconsciously works on problem solving what your brain perceives as a problem. So that's why sometimes you don't have the answer to things right then and there, but then you'll just be doing something and all of a sudden the right idea pops in. And I was like, oh, because your brain subconsciously was working on that behind the scenes.
So it's interesting you say that as well. I have another friend of mine in California. He called me up one day and he's like, look, I bought this magazine. And I'm like, dude, you're 65 years old. What are you doing buying this car magazine, right? So he wanted me to go consult with him, and I did. But one of the things he says is, it's pretty cool, and I want to share this with everybody because I learned from it, is he says, once I make a decision, I spend no time thinking about it failing, because that's using my good resources, my thought, which I've very limited time on, in negativity. I spend my time making that decision the best decision I've made and making it succeed. So I want you guys to think about that.
Okay, so going back to with XPEL, what were some of the things that when you had that director's role at Vision, the architectural brand of XPEL, what were some of the innovations that you had within that role and some of the countries that you visited and things you picked up along the way?
You know, I think XPEL gave me a lot of room to build their program, but because it was still primarily, 5 years later, one of the challenges I still dealt with was that it's come a long way, but it's got a long way to go for architectural, because they're so auto. And I don't blame them. Like, when the bulk of your sales are automotive, they have to keep asking the question probably that, hey, do I just spend more and do more auto, or do I take? So it's a difficult, so I don't blame them. I don't blame them for not putting enough resources. But I was able to expand, in Australia, in Japan, in Taiwan, in China. We are actually very successful. The first year we launched architectural firms in China. So I mean, it's a tough market, and we were doing well there. Obviously, in the U.S. and in Canada, we were doing really well. So I was very fortunate that they gave me, and again, this is thanks to Matt Moreau, the boss that I used to have, that gave me a lot of room to build that. So, but I think they're in a good place. I feel really good, for where they started and where I was able to bring them, and hopefully, I do see from what I'm hearing that they have pulled back on some of the resources on architectural. But again, if they do, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a big company and they're doing so well on the automotive side.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes, like, I guess as a company, you look at the things that are working for you and you add more fuel to those. I mean, sometimes,
Yes.
and that's like the direction that some companies will take. Is like, some others will put more resources into something that has bigger potential, but not doing so well, or others are going to look at that and say, hey, let's put our resources into something that's already working and let's just magnify the success here, right? So. Yeah. What was the biggest challenge when you said you went to China? And China is known for copying a lot of things and a lot of products and reverse engineering. What was the biggest challenge for you getting into that market?
I think that, we were very fortunate that we had a good distributor there. So we were able to work through the distributor, and our goal was, and this is kind of when you have good partners, right? I was able to really open the minds of the distributor there. Mm-hmm. To be able to focus in and go out to the market. So I think that was the key thing, that we had a good partner there that was willing to learn, and then not only learn, but I think some of the things I taught them, they took to a whole new level for their own markets. So I think that was part of the success.
And
that's
so
why it's very
challenge. Yeah. What was the challenge there?
I think the challenge is just that there's so many manufacturers in China, and you can get it for some of those products for a fraction of, not all because they were proprietary products, but for a fraction. So you're fighting bringing a product into the country when they're manufacturing at pennies on the dollar, right? So that was one of the challenges, but I think it worked out pretty well for XPEL.
I had heard a rumor, and this is just a simple question. Is it true that people were putting Clearview Plus on automotive
Yes.
in China?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. On windshields, right? I mean, remember at Veloce, I think this guy's won some competitions. I'm not sure. His name is Jong Moon Lee. He's out of Korea, and he was actually a distributor of Veloce. He was the first Asian distributor of Veloce, and just a great guy. I gave him a product that was probably, I would say, arguably, it used to be called my Cool Touch IR, which was a product I had under Veloce.
I think I've seen it.
This guy, the first time on a Lexus front windshield, he shaped that thing. And let me tell you, I gave that product to people in the US who couldn't, they ghosted it, they gave up on it. This guy, the first time around, had a perfect install. He had never touched that film in his life. He came to the US, I had him put that on my Lexus, and he did it to perfection. So, Jong Moon Lee, if you're listening, you, in my book, sir, are the best installer there is.
Hey, he's got to send me a message and show me how to do it, because when I heard about the Clearview Plus on windshields, I put it on my Sienna in one of my fleets, and I ghosted the hell out of those bottom corners. I said, I'll live with it. As long as it sticks, I'll live with it, because the performance was pretty good. But yeah, there's definitely a different shrinking. That film was not built for shrinking, I'm assuming.
It wasn't built for shrinking, but it's a different technique, and it requires a lot more patience.
Is this similar to 3M's crystalline?
No, that's actually a lot easier.
Oh, this one's even tougher.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, so you grew the market with XPEL Vision.
Yeah.
What was the? Did you know, were you looking for a way out of it now? I mean, your kids are a little bit older.
Yeah, I think, Or
it became similar to the previous journey, whereas you had the value starting to do this?
No, I don't think in terms of values. I think, look, there are things. The difference between XPEL and some of the other brands is that XPEL does not piss on your foot and tell you it's raining, right? Yeah. Whereas some of the other brands will piss on your foot and tell you it's raining. XPEL doesn't. They say, hey, we do car dealerships, we sell direct, we do this. So whatever it is, they're pretty upfront about it. And, there's got to be, there's some respect for that. Now, will I, in my new venture be doing everything that they're doing? No, right? Because I feel like, again, conflicts, right? I want to make sure that I eliminate those conflicts, but they don't lie about it, right? I mean, and lots of respect to them for doing that.
That's something that, I remember whenever these programs started to come out, and I appreciate like Chris Hardy, for example. He would be the ones that would go into some of these industry interviews and face the music and address these things head on. And hey, the truth isn't always pretty, but it's the truth. And I'd rather take the truth. I'd rather take what is it? The quote that says, "You'd rather take a hard truth than a comforting lie." Sure. And that's one thing that we can give credit to XPEL in that sense. Yes. Is that they, however they're going to do things, they're going to tell you that that's how they're going to do it, and it is what it is. You either like it or don't like it, and that's for you to decide. So,
yes.
It's one thing that I think has been a great thing about them and how they've gone about things in terms of releasing information.
Sure. And keep in mind that a publicly traded company has to work differently, right, than a privately held company, because there are lots of other people that you're answering to. Mm-hmm. They're shareholders, there are other aspects. So you have to think a little bit differently as well. Some of it is good, some of it is not so good. But I think that, again, hats off to them.
All right. Well, you ready?
Yeah.
So, new company on the horizon.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, timing is important. And again, God's been very kind to me over the years. And Veloce, the goal was not to exit. A great opportunity came along, and it bought me some time. And there were some of my dealers and some friends who even asked me, they're like, man, that's really quick. I had no idea that you wanted to get out. I didn't. I didn't want to get out. But those 2 years made me realize that maybe, and we grew so fast. I mean, let me tell you, to be acquired by who I would say is the most aggressive and fastest growing window film company in the world by far.
Yeah.
There's nobody that comes even in second place to XPEL today, right? Nobody, right? And think about those empty hollow noises of some of the loud
Empty
social,
vessels,
the
yeah.
empty vessels make the most noise. Yeah, there's none of that. So to be acquired by a company like that and to be a part of it for 5 years, I feel that I was very fortunate. They gave me a lot of resources. I learned a lot of key things from them. So now I think it's time where I've got some money, thank you, XPEL, a little bit more than before, and then more experience, more global experience, seen scalability, seen how a large publicly traded company works, so that to learn from the things that I can and the things that I should change. So it's time to open a company that is not going to have conflicts of interest, right? It's time to open a company that where the major focus is trust, right? Is to build that bond between a supplier and a dealer, is to build that bond between two dealers by making them feel secure. You know how you get people to talk is you make them feel secure. To build a brand that does not bully people and say, you have to buy from us or else. To build a brand that people want to do business with, that people want to, Carlos, one of the things I've seen over, and you've gone through a metamorphosis over the last 5 years. You started off, and I thought you were all over the place. And I told you that. Remember? You remember that conversation?
Yeah, and I was. I definitely was.
And I'd love to see you do well. Eric sold his company to Tintwiz.
Yeah.
He built the freaking machine, and what a great guy, and you know how close I am to Eric, right? What a great person, human being. We have a friendship independent of any sort of other relationship, right? That so forth. So I think that I want to see you succeed. I want to see people succeed that you care about.
Yeah.
I want ProLayers to be that company where people feel secure. They are not threatened because our sales rep is going to go around them and give them a territory for brand A and then go sell to 20 other dealers in that same area with brand B, and then brand C and brand D. I don't want them to think over, I don't want them to look over their shoulder and say, what is going on? I want to be, so transparency is going to be part of that. One of the things that I did, today there's a whole issue with infrared spectrum and how it's reported.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I was the first person in this industry in 2006 when 3M came out with their Prestige line and they started reporting 97% infrared. I did so many different, releases on the fact that can they report it, right? Is it the right thing to do? No, but as long as you're mentioning that that it's a certain wavelength, it's okay to report it that way. So I'm going to have full transparency on our numbers, and I'm going to be doing testing. I've spoken to our corporate attorney, and he said, look, as long as you're stating facts and you can prove it, I'm going to be doing testing. So our PPF products, we're going to launch architectural films, we're going to launch automotive films, and we're going to launch paint protection films. But the beauty of the ProLayers brand is that it doesn't say ProLayers window film.
Right. Yeah.
It's ProLayers.
Yep.
ProLayers.com. That's it. There's no mention of window film. And the reason is that I want to bring products with solutions that film cannot solve.
Give me some examples, because when you mentioned PPF, window film, whether it be automotive architecture, those are still film products, but
Sure.
your intention is to expand outside of the film sector.
We are talking to a company today,
Okay.
looking at acquiring it, that has a product that is not a film, and it fulfills a function that a window film cannot fulfill.
Can you talk about that or no?
I can't. I'm under, hopefully, when we do our next, if we do the next one, follow up in about
podcast.
60 days or so, that I'll know if I was able to acquire that company or not. But that's not it. The goal is not just one product. I want to bring products that can be sold to the same customer. What's one of the biggest issues that we face today? Okay, one of the biggest issues we face today is we do somebody's car, okay, and then so we kind of have to wait. Like in the automotive sense, we're a little bit better because we can do tint, we can do PPF, we can do ceramic coating. So we've got like 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that we can sell on the same car. And when they sell the car, which is more often than they sell their house, you get more repeat business out of it. But in a home, it becomes kind of difficult, right? You do their windows and then you're like, okay, Carlos, sell your house so we can like do your windows again, and so forth. So you're twiddling your thumb. So I want to bring more products, more solutions that can be sold to Mrs. Jones so that the cost, and this is something that I want to talk to our dealers about, is that the cost of customer acquisition is very high. When you sell to Mrs. Jones and then you go to Mrs. Smith's house, the next time you get that lead for Mrs. Smith is extremely expensive. And think about it, if you have a 50% closing ratio, it becomes even more expensive because you got to go to 2 Mrs. Smith's houses to sell to 1 Mrs. Smith, right? So that's another thing. So what my goal is to take Mrs. Jones, sell them something for the windows, and then sell them something for their countertops, right? Then sell them something for X, Y, Z. I'm not going to go into that today, but so sell some more products in our house. Now, why is this so important? Window film companies stick in the window film box. They are not going to go. So that's part of my competitive edge. An Eastman Chemical is not going to go find a product that fits for Mrs. Jones because Eastman Chemical has its own machines they have to run, and they have to stick within the window film as a company they are. And I'm a big fan of Eastman, very ethical company. Have a lot of friends that work for Lumar and Eastman as well, right? So, who, by the way, the gentleman that he's moved on from the window film industry, but this guy is another really, really smart guy that I look up to, Travis Smith at Eastman Chemical, just a good human being and very, very sharp. So that being said, so we're gonna, my goal is to create solutions, right? And solutions that even film cannot, and to bring them into pro layers. So pro layer stands for protection layers, right? Layers of protection. So protection from unwanted heat, unwanted UV, unwanted X, Y, Z, and as you see the additional products that we bring in, we are able to bring in, they will fall into the protection or saving category. So our tagline is pro layers, protect and save.
Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
I was thinking about what do our products do? They save money, right? They save interiors, they save car dashes, they save, all of that stuff, and they protect, right? Whether it's PPF or they protect UV and certain so forth. So the logo, the shield came through that protection side. And then I thought about, protect and serve, right? Which is a tagline for the police and so forth. So I thought, okay, protect and serve, protect and save, right? So so that's how we kind of, tied it in together, that we want, when they look at that shield, they think about protection.
So, and just to recap, is not another film company. Why?
Because biggest thing is going to be, we are going to eliminate conflicts of interest, right? Today, there's so many conflicts of interest that are present in the industry. And those conflicts of interest cause a huge issue with the dealers, right? What the dealers come across is that, hey, are they going to do this for me? Well, what about if they do this? What about if they go sell to a dealership direct? What are some of the things that, I don't want them to keep looking, as I said earlier, over there, around their back to see, hey, what are these guys doing next, right? So the goal is to create a dealer-focused, dealer-centric brand that focuses up. And if there's ever a conflict that comes up, the weight of the dealers is going to outweigh any other. And that's why we are also going to really focus on our top 10 to 20 dealers, especially the freshman class, the people that come in first, that have a say-so in helping me. Look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? One thing I am is persistent. We're going to get it right. We're going to make it better. And I'm not going to do this alone. I can't do this alone. I'm not smart enough to do this alone, right? So as a startup, I need people much smarter than me. I need people that have different perspectives. I don't want to be that politician that brings in everybody that thinks just like me. I want to bring in people that are going to say, Harry, that shit stinks, right? You need to change that. And then if everybody else agrees, right, then that's a sign on me that, man, I've read this wrong. And if I've read this wrong, thank you, right? So there are going to be things that we do for our top 20 dealers, right? When I say top, the first 20 major dealers that come on board that are going to be untouchable, right? These guys are going to feel like they literally kind of own the company, right? Because they're going to help us make those decisions because I've got a lot, look, 25, 26 years, different brands, different positions, different research, different this. I feel I've got my finger on the pulse, but times are changing, especially over the last 2 years, 3 years, times have changed. And I need people to keep me focused on the prize. And for me, that prize is a dealer-centric business model. There are going to be conflicts that come up. You better believe it, 100%. And they're going to get me. If I go off the rails, off the track, they're going to get me back on track. So that's the difference, that conflicts of interest. Selling online, selling to car dealerships, selling tons of brands through the same channels, selling the same product in a different box to the same customer, bullying, not making sure that we're not bullying dealers. We want dealers to come to us and say, guys, I want to do business with pro layers because it makes sense. Because the reality is this, God forbid you guys can't pay your rent, there's going to be no supplier that comes back. That same supplier that was saying you have to buy from us, right? None of them are going to show up to pay your rent. So I expect you guys do what is best for your business. And if we're best for your business, great. And if we're not, that's okay too. Maybe you're already in a great place.
That's it's interesting growth strategy. So you're dealer focused. What's the thing that makes you different than your competitors? There's a famous quote that I picked up along the way a long time ago. To be successful, you got to be better than or different than, and the better strategy is to be different than, because it's the better than strategy ultimately for like growth. You got to be different. So what outside of promises in terms of like truth and transparency, which are an integral part of who you are. Outside of that, what are some of the other things that it's going to make Pro Layers different than every other film company? I know you mentioned it's not just a film company, sure, but what are some of the things that's going to make this organization and this company brand different?
I think, and I agree with you that trust has become one of those words that people throw out, right? Yeah. Another word that people throw out is family. You guys are just like family. Another word that people throw out is partners. You're our partners. The reality is this, guys, and I'm talking to all of you dealers out there. The same companies that are calling you family and partners, stop buying from them for 3 months and see what happens. Will they still call you family or partners? Look, I had one of my best buddies who I want to give credit to, who since passed away, Carol Lockwood. And by the way, one of the things that we're going to do is that our highest end award at Pro Layers is going to be called the Carol Lockwood Award. Carol Lockwood Excellence Award, right? Because Carol was my older sister, right? So I have 2 sisters and 1 brother, but Carol was like, she was older than me, but she was like my younger sister, right? And she worked her ass off, and she was such a great human being. Yeah. And the thing that I say to all of you on a separate note is that sometimes you find people that have not found the right fit in terms of where they fit. And Carol was just that. Carol came in and helped me and became a part of Veloce. And man, I am forever indebted to her and her family. And one of the promises I made Carol was that when she found out she had cancer and she was passing away, was that I was going to keep in touch. So I keep in touch with her family and stuff because I was like, hey, look, I'm going to keep in touch with her. But she was an amazing, amazing person. And the things that she kept telling me was that, Harry, I've been an installer. And I learned a lot of things from her, right? A lot. But there's going to be our highest end award is going to be about Carol. But to get back to your question, I want to make sure that I address it in detail. I feel that trust and family, these are, family and partnership. Yeah, guys, look, I was family, right? So trust me, it's not what you think, right? Stop buying and then you'll find out where you stand, right? Carol got a call 2 months after her shop burnt down, right?
This was around what time frame?
This was her shop burnt down like before she started working for me. Her shop burnt down like a year before that, right?
Okay.
And she gets a call from her supplier at the time, who she was very loyal to, that said, hey, you haven't bought anything in 2 months. She's like, my shop burnt down. But they didn't even care, right, about that. Their thing was, hey, you haven't bought anything and you're about to lose your status as our automotive high-end brand dealer, right? So I'm like, so that's when she joined me. So I want to bring up the word trust, right? Guys, let me tell you something. This is very important. And I'm not saying people don't make mistakes. I've made a lot and I've got a lot of scars to show for it. But I can tell you this. It all starts with trust. And it all starts with the people that you love. Your mother, your wife, your kids, your spouse, whatever it is, right? And if you cannot be loyal to your wife, who is your partner, who has given up a lot to be your partner, then you know what? Everybody else is a distant 17th, right? So when you guys do business, and one thing I can say about XPEL is, look, that, as opposed to some of my other experiences, one thing I can say about XPEL is that they are loyal people, right? They have to do business their own way, right? But if you're doing, ask yourself, who do I want to do business with? And if they can't be loyal to their spouse, if they can't be loyal to their mother, if they can't be loyal to their kids, then is that who I want to do business with? So that it starts off with, you can't be the person that says, well, they're not going to do it to me. You can't be that person because you have to learn from others' experiences. If you wait to learn from every experience that you have to go through, you're going to go through a lot of pain, right? So you have to learn, if I treat you like shit, right? If I treat you really well, but I treat X and Y and Z like shit, you should be asking yourself, right? And especially if those people are close to me, right? Maybe it's a spouse or my sister or my brother or whoever else. You should be asking yourself the question, man, if he's doing that to his spouse, to his brother, to his sister, where do I stand, right? So I feel that is a big part. Second thing is, like I said earlier, we want you to do what's right for your business. If we're right, great. If we're not, it's okay. We're not meant for everybody, right? Third thing is that when you think about all the things that keep you up, whether it's a territory or not having, whether it's people trying to take your jobs, take your projects away from you, your cars, sell at very low prices, all that stuff, right? Because there's so many dealers in a given area. I want you to think about that. How many dealers are in a given area? Now, I also tell you that a lot of you guys put a lot of effort into the brands of these other brands that have A, very big brands, or B, multiple brands. The reality is you need to focus in on something that you have safety and security of. Like if you have a full security and there are no conflicts of interest, you need to focus in on that instead of promoting somebody else's brand. Because all you're doing is you're, yes, using that brand to promote yourself, but you're also increasing their value and and not putting enough effort into your own brand value. The other part of the branding part is that I want you to also think about the fact that if you are not associated with that brand someday and you have spent the last 10 years creating it and helping it grow, where does that put you? This is why I'm a big believer that first you have to have. This is why franchisees do well, because they are very secure in their own way. They're not worried about another product coming in or another franchise, because they have security. Like if you look at a franchisee contract, and I've been to many franchisee trainings for Taco Bell and Burger King and TCBY yogurt as well outside of this industry. So I would say to you that just be cautious of all the things that you're putting out and what is being asked of you. The other thing is trust is extremely important. So I can't ask my wife to be loyal to me if I'm not willing to return the favor and be loyal to her. So I would say to you that reduce the conflicts of interest and ask for loyalty in return, right? If you're going to go promote something, then make sure that you are secure in every aspect possible if you're going to go create a brand name that you don't own.
Right. Big venture, big opportunities coming up. What are some of the things that excite you about this? Like, what are some of the things that you, right now, that you're like, man, I'm just ready to go get after it?
Carlos, our marketing materials, A, I've got a great team that I've got, but B, I love the look. I'm very particular. I think our binders, our folders, even our automotive sample books are gonna look better. They are going to be better. It's not that they're just going to look better. They're going to be different. I'm not just doing things, I've taken a step back and I'm thinking, what is the right way to do it rather than how does the industry do it? So I'm really, really excited. Our website, we're spending, some money in terms of not just the look, but from a consumer awareness perspective as well. So some of these things take time, but I'm really excited. And my team, I'm really excited. This is a good team that I have. And some of the key dealers that have already reached out to me and said, Harry, we do business with Harry Rahman. And that's really, really exciting. So those are all exciting things that I think, people can expect from us. And I think that if there's something we're not doing that you want us to do, then tell us. Because if we don't know, we can't. The difference is I am asking for this. I'm not the type, I'm not the type of leader that says, you know what, do not complain about something you don't like. No, complain about it. Hopefully to us first, but if you need to post it on social media, post it on social media. It does not matter. If we make a mistake, we want to know about it and we're going to fix it.
So, difference between Harry Rahman starting Pearl Layers and the Harry Rahman that started Veloce?
I think that scalability, I think the values are still the same. I think we're going to do, I think product-wise, I've got a lot more knowledge on the paint protection side than I did. I think architecturally and automotive window films, I would say that even at XPEL, there were people in the automotive divisions that would call me for advice on automotive window films, because window films, I know inside out, right? So PPF, I learned a lot about, and I think scalability, I think consumer awareness, and I think that, I learned a lot about what not to do.
Got it. Now, one final question, and this is outside of the business. Yeah. At the end of your life, how would you like to be remembered?
I want to be remembered, and I got this actually from another very smart gentleman. I want to be remembered as the person, when they're laying me in my grave, that there are people around saying, that guy helped me, right? And the reason is not for my ego, because my ego will be zero because I'll be 6 feet under, but I want it because that's how the world goes around. If you make a difference in people's lives, and I make a difference, this world will be a better place than when we came here. So that's how the clog The wheel does not get clogged. We keep improving the wheel is how we make a difference. I want people to say, Harry gave me more than I gave him, right? I want to be the person that gives, not just the person that takes, because then the world becomes smaller.
Leave the world better than when you came into it.
That's it.
Well, Harry, it's been a pleasure. Tell people here where they can find you. Where on social media, how can they become a Pro Layers dealer?
So prolayers.com, it's Prolayers. Obviously, my name is Harry Rahman, and I'm on Facebook and I think on Instagram as well. And we also have all of our social media channels that will be ready by the time you're watching this video, or by May 1st is our launch date. So all of that will be ready, and then Harry at prolayers.com or info at prolayers.com. But I think that for those of you that question sometimes or have to look over their shoulders, it'll be an interesting call to make to find out what we're doing differently. Our goal is not to be for the masses, right? We don't want everybody's business. It's not that we don't want it. We can't make everybody happy. We are looking for entrepreneurs that have three things: willingness, ability, and values. They want to do it, they can do it, and they have great values. We can take you to your next level, wherever that is, whether that is transitioning your business to a family member, whether that's selling your business, whether that's becoming a part of a bigger company, whatever it is, we can help you get there.
Protect and save. Well, thank you for joining this podcast. This has been Harry Rahman and the glass and film slinging, Tintertaining, hell-raising, trailblazing, the Texas Squeegee signing off, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Squeegee that.